Well, hello everyone. David Young here, host of the Drone to 1K podcast. This is season 5, episode 3. I originally just recorded this and said this is season 3. I'm getting my numbers all mixed up because it's 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm in my car. Technically on vacation. I'm in North Carolina on Beach Mountain, if any of you guys are familiar with that. It is blazing hot in Florida right now where I'm from. It's in the 90s every day, which doesn't sound hot. Doesn't sound that hot. But when you add in that it's like 100% humidity all the time, the feels like temperature is easily in the 100s, and it just feels miserable. If you go to weatherspark.com and you look at Lakeland, Florida, and you go to the humidity section, basically for all of July and August, it labels it as, quote, oppressive. So anyways, I'm here for a week with my family, doing a little bit of work, mostly hanging out, hiking, things like that. I have 4 boys, and they all really enjoy hiking. Well, the youngest one's like 9 months old, so he's not much of a hiker yet. But anyways, I'm up here. I'm excited for today's episode. It's Joe Morgan from Texas. I believe his company's called Eyes Above Texas. So this is a fun chat. Again, we try to bring people from all different backgrounds, experience levels, industries to you so you can hopefully learn from them, get some good nuggets of wisdom. I'm not going to go into my usual long spiel about how you can win a bunch of free swag and free shirts. If you want to know all that stuff, you can listen to last week's intro. I talk about that. I feel bad saying the same exact thing every time because I think, what if there's somebody that this is their first episode and they don't know? But you can just go back and listen to the other one. Basically, you can answer one question, win some swag or a course, or you can leave us a review and get a shirt for a thank you. But to get the details, just go to the last episode, listen to the intro. What I do want to talk about briefly before we dive into the intro, I just want to say we launched our new community, Drone Launch Connect. It's an online community / membership for drone pilots who are just starting out, really experienced all around. And I'm loving it so far. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me because I hired somebody to run it, somebody who's had been a drone launch kind of on our email list, and his name is Dusty Jolly. Oh yeah, we did see episode 1 with him. So if you want to meet Dusty, listen to episode 1. He talks about his drone business, his background, his experience. But Dusty's kind of running the community, and I get to just participate, which is really fun. So last night we had a happy hour, and literally you just show up, hang out. There's a bunch of people we get on there on Zoom. There's no real agenda. You can just kind of shoot the breeze. People ask drone questions. People just talk about life, whatever. So I was on there for a little while, and then I had to hop off for a call. But I guess Dusty said they ended up being on there for about an hour and a half, just chatting it up. So it's a great way to get to know people, get to know Dusty. I'm going to try to pop in there as often as I can. But it's a lot of fun. If you want to check that out, just go to dronelaunchconnect.com. I believe right now it is $1 for the first month, and then after that it is $29 per month. We're actually thinking we're probably going to close the enrollment for the community to help just make it a more tight-knit group and maybe open it up only a few times a year. But as of right now, you can get in. I think you could probably get in until the end of August if you'd like. But yeah, I just wanted to encourage you, if you're in the drone world and you're just looking for some people that are, you need advice, you need help, we have access to all sorts of different experts that we're bringing in, panels, we have pitch help, so we like get on there and practice your pitch, or let's say you meet somebody and you're talking to them and you want to be able to clearly communicate what you do. We got people in there to help you with that. Yeah, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun, a lot of resources, discounts on drones, accessories, gear, contests. It's a lot of fun stuff. We just want to make it a fun place to go, since especially the online world can be kind of mean sometimes. Let's say you post something on a Facebook group and people are just like, this sucks, or you're not going to make it. People are just so negative all the time. So this is a nice positive place to come hang out with fellow drone pilots, drone entrepreneurs, people in different careers. So I'm really enjoying it. That's all I wanted to say about that. So if that sounds like your jam, go check it out, dronelaunchconnect.com. All right, let's dive into the interview with Joe Morgan. Thanks, everyone. All right, everyone, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Joe Morgan with Eyes Above Texas Aerial Imagery. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Joe.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, I was just telling Joe right before we got started, I actually know nothing about Joe other than he's a successful drone business owner. So I'm going to be getting to know him for the very first time on the air here. So I hope you guys will enjoy this as we kind of dive into, Joe, what you've built and your drone business, and Hopefully everybody else out there gets some good tips for you as well, or gets some good tips from you. And if people
Yeah,
have good tips for Joe, I guess you could write in and give those as well. So
let me know,
uh,
please.
so Joe, why don't we start off and tell us a little bit about just how you got into just drones in the first place? Not necessarily business, but like when did you first start being like, oh, that's a cool drone, I need to get one?
Yeah, well, and it's kind of funny. I get asked that quite a bit. I get asked, how long were you flying before you decided to start a business? And the honest answer is that I had the idea was actually presented to me by a friend of mine that's in the construction business,
Hmm.
and I was in between a couple of jobs. I was most of my career I've been in healthcare, and the company that I was with at the time had some reorg going on. Unfortunately, I was given a severance package and asked to, probably find something new. So I jumped on the first thing I got, which just wasn't meeting the same salary needs as I had. So I had to kind of find something that could essentially supplement my income. So this good friend of mine that I grew up with is an entrepreneur here in West Texas, and was just kind of talking with him about some ideas. And I was maybe considering the route of doing real estate and getting my real estate license. And he's like, you know what, that you would be good at that, but I have a suggestion. I was like, I'm all ears right now. I'm absolutely all ears. And he said, he has investors, and of course he needs to, show his investors what he's doing. And he said that he had an idea to get some aerial photography of a storage facility that he was building, and he couldn't find anyone in the area that did it professionally in his research. So he just bought a drone and took a couple of pictures and sent them to his investors, and they were, they loved it. And he's like, that I would do that, and kind of did some research, kind of saw what that was going to take. And the first thing I did when I, was given this idea, and after a little bit of research, is I went and bought like a $25-$30 little drone from a department store.
Nice.
And actually, it's a funny story. I was in my backyard at my first time to ever get anything like that off the ground. And as soon as I got it above the fence, it blew into my neighbor's yard.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, am I crazy? Am I really going to do this? So
Well, you
I
started off
actually
with a
was like,
hard one because a lot of times those are really, really light and get taken
oh,
pretty
I know.
easily. Yeah.
I wish I would have known a little bit more about it. But what I did was I went and got it, brought it into the house, and started flying it around the house.
Okay.
And got, fairly decent. I wasn't hitting any walls or anything like that. And then I knew the next step was to do some homework and prep for the Part 107 exam, and actually utilized your service
Oh,
to
cool.
actually do that.
Nice.
So yeah, and it was, I mean, no aviation experience at the time, and dove in and was able to knock that out,
Sweet.
with your guys' help. And then went on to the research to, purchase a drone that I thought would meet the needs of what I believed was the business that I was going to create. And landed with the DJI Phantom 4 Pro.
Nice.
Got that in the air, and to your point exactly, it was so much easier flying that thing
Oh yeah.
versus like a little 8 ounce, drone the size of the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
So did some practicing with it around my neighborhood, and felt comfortable with that, and then went on to kind of start developing my brand and my business, and thinking of what kind of creative name I can make, and had some folks here in Lubbock, Texas do essentially create my logo. And that part I really did enjoy, and that was a lot of fun. And then the real work started after that. It's all right, so this is what I've invested in, this is what I've
Hmm.
created, now how do I put it to work? And
Yeah.
we're going on over 4 years now, and
Oh wow.
it keeps me pretty busy. It really does. It's been a journey, to say the least.
So you've been doing this for 4 years. So since what, 2018?
2017, November of
27.
2017 is when I passed my Part 107.
Oh, okay.
So it was
Wow.
pretty much, that's kind of when I hit the start button. Essentially,
Sure.
is when I had that license, I could go
Awesome.
go for it and tackle it. And it was
Well, man.
important to me. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was going to just say that's a long time. I mean, I didn't realize you've been in it that long. You're probably one of our, because I started the company in, around the time Part 107 came out, a little before us. So think we had only been up for like a year at that point. So you're one
Yeah,
of the
I
OGs,
think.
I guess.
Yeah, man, and I must be, and that's certainly flattering. And that's what's interesting about this industry. It's just it its life hasn't been very long, and
Right.
it's really been exciting to see just every year how it has progressed. And you kind of have to certainly stay evolving with the industry to continue to be successful in what you're doing. And
Hmm.
you know, um, I was just going through. I went through the website your website just a little bit ago to see. I mean, just the plethora of different trainings outside of the Part 107 that's on there. Like, wow, I'm barely scratching the surface with this stuff, because there is
Well,
so much you could do with it.
true, true.
It's it.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead.
to your point, it's like if no matter what business you're in, I think you can't just ever sit back and just kind of coast. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We focused on Part 107 stuff at first just because that's the main thing everyone needed help with. And then after that, everybody's like, well, hey, what do I do now? Or like, how do I do this? Right. So we just started
Yeah.
helping people with that kind of stuff. But like you, right? Let's maybe and I'm sure we'll get into it, but maybe you started off doing one thing, you figure out, oh, people want this, they don't want this. How do I adapt that? And you just kind of evolve as you go to once you start figuring out what people want and how they want it. So
Hmm.
let's dive into that a little. So basically, you got into drones because of wanting to ramp up a business, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then when your friend said, "Hey, take some photos of the storage facility for me," is that what you said? It was like a storage.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
Okay,
one of my very first paying jobs, as a matter of fact.
nice. Were they building it or they acquired it? Yeah, like already
They
done.
had just finished done building it, and he was wanting to market it, as a matter
Oh,
of fact.
okay.
So,
Oh, cool, nice.
yeah.
Um, so how did you go from that, which is nice that you kind of had and a lot of people I hear that's how they do it. They're like, oh, I had a friend who let me get a
Hmm.
first paying job or so they get me started, and then you kind of expand from there. So how'd you go from the friend job to you know expanding out? And like I remember you said then the work
Yeah.
started. So maybe start telling us about what was the
Yeah.
work.
Sure. No, yeah. So I really began trying to get creative with who I thought would be smart folks to get in front of. I really thought starting off that my bread and butter would be residential and commercial real estate. You
Hmm.
know, agents wanting to list these properties and to give a different perspective or paint a different picture. Have some aerial photography included in their listing. Out here, we're in West Texas. I mean, Lubbock's about 300,000 people, but it gets pretty rural quite fast outside of Lubbock County. So there's these large properties that are on 100 acres, and there's relatively large ranches. And I just kind of thought that would be a great way to list these kinds of properties to really give people a perspective of what their money is going to be going to. So I got in with essentially your chambers of commerce, West Texas Home Builders Association,
Hmm.
apartment association, realtor association. So I just really started doing my best to network
Yep.
and really try to drive home what I believed was a service of value for these folks. And to be honest, it was a little bit of a hard nut to crack. And I don't know if it was, still kind of taboo and folks weren't sure whether it'd be a good investment for them. And it took a little while, and actually took a little bit of, hey, I'll do it for free. I'll show
Yeah.
you. I'll go out to that location. I'll fly the drone, take these pictures, and get them back over to you, and you're free to do whatever you want. And I did that quite a bit to finally start building a little bit of really credibility more
Hmm.
than anything.
Yeah.
And so that was, and that that's still something that I'm trying to grow, is that local commercial real estate and residential real estate business. But really, what I cut my teeth on, honestly, was I came across Drone Base,
Mm.
and you know signed up, got did what I needed to do, and before I knew it, I was getting these asks to go fly certain things around the area, whether it was stockpile reports or roof inspections. And that really that right there is kind of what opened me up to understanding there is so much more you could do with this camera that's flying than
Mm-hmm.
just pretty pictures of a ranch or,
Yep.
of an office building in town. So, um, really started really diversifying my skills and my experience. One of the and I've told this to folks that have come to me that are, asking about how did I get started and what did I do, and I'm interested in doing it. And a story I give them is I was reached out by a company. I was contacted by a company, and they asked if I wanted to do essentially a concrete survey of a Walmart facility in Plainview, Texas. And that's just
Okay.
north of here. I was like, oh, Walmart, that doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah.
So I sent them
Is it
over a bid.
like concrete as in like like the parking lot or something
Yeah,
else?
parking lot. Yeah, exactly. It was
Okay.
a parking
Okay.
lot. That's what I assumed.
Okay. Okay.
So they're like, shoot me over a bid, and I was very green, a little naive, and I was like, $250. Let's $250.
Walmart's
So
like,
when
is
they,
that like, is
yeah,
that like our fee to
so
talk to you at the beginning or something? Yeah.
exactly right. I mean, I've learned so much over the last few years. So they sent me over the specifics to this mission or this job, and it ends up being the Walmart distribution center, which is about 6 times as much as I thought I was going to be doing. And this, I mean, I was already committed. I didn't,
So
go
they were
back
like,
and try to
so they were like, yeah, $250 sounds good.
They're like, oh yeah, dude, let's hire this guy. He sounds great.
They weren't like, this guy has no idea what he's doing because he's only charging
Well,
us
they
250
probably
bucks.
thought that, but they certainly didn't put it in writing to me.
So, real quick, let me rewind. How did you remind me how you landed on this job again?
So I I want to say I did create a website, um, uh, here local to Lubbock, Texas. That's my company's business name, and I believe they just found my website and they
Okay.
had my email and just reached out to me.
So they were just
For
looking
anyone's,
around.
yeah, they needed a
Okay.
certified drone pilot in the West Texas area.
Gotcha.
And for anyone starting out, absolutely create a website. You'd be so surprised on how much
Mm-hmm.
business you could get and leads you could get from just having a website.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they sent me over the specifics, and after looking over kind of what the ask was, I immediately knew that I had, for one, underbid, and that this was probably out of the scope of my experience. But um, to break it down a little bit, from what I can recall, it was a large orthomosaic shot of it's probably about, I'd say, a 40-acre warehouse and all the surrounding concrete around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a distribution center for Walmart, so I mean it's busy. It's a big space,
Mm-hmm.
and then they wanted some low level, right about 20 feet, shots of each kind of lane, because there's tractor truck trailers
Mm-hmm.
parked all throughout this, and they wanted me to go up each and every aisle essentially, with the drone
I'm just
and
laughing because I'm thinking about
photo.
$250 to
Oh,
do
dude, tell
all
me about it. I'll still laugh about it.
this.
It's a
Sorry,
great
keep going.
story.
But
No,
you know
you're
what?
fine.
Hey, but great project to have under your belt, even if you only got 250
Yes.
bucks for it at first.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
that's the
I'll let you
thing,
keep going.
when it was,
I keep interrupting. I'm
no, you're
sorry.
fine. No, you're good. And then the last one that was the most challenging, and I'll tie this around to definitely give some folks some advice. The next one, the third ask that was the most challenging, is they wanted pictures from underneath every one of the trailers. So they wanted me to walk around with the drone and essentially kind of squat down and take a picture underneath
Under
every one of these trailers
What were they
to
looking
see
for
what
underneath the trailers?
the concrete.
Oh, so like they could get condition to
Yep,
concrete even if the trailer was parked
exactly.
there. Oh, I got you. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. So I knew just doing that would take 3 days of just walking around. So what I ended up doing, and was I was in my pickup truck and I lowered my tailgate. I taped my drone to my tailgate to face to the
Smart.
left, and put it on, essentially take a picture every 2 seconds, and just drove slow down each and every aisle.
Very smart.
And I got it, yeah, and I got it done in about 9 hours. And $250 later, I came back with an incredible amount of experience just from that one job. I mean,
Yeah.
using multiple batteries and dumping your SD card in a computer to make room for the next, and charging, recharging while flying, and just trying to keep it being as efficient as you can to be on this site. And then, of course, there's all the moving parts of people still working there and trucks coming in and out and the safety portion of it. But
Mhm.
really being able to be creative, efficient and just apply some critical thinking to some of these projects. I think to some folks might be a little overwhelming, but if you just kind of stick with it and be patient and, stay to it, I think once you have something under your belt, you're pretty confident going forward as to I could probably do anything that's being really asked,
Yeah.
in regards to the skills that I have and what this drone can do.
Yeah. And kudos to you for being able not, well, I mean, maybe you undercharged a little bit, right? But,
Sure.
but at least for being like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Like,
Yeah,
what's the worst that could happen? I mean, yeah, you might make yourself look a little stupid if you mess something up, but you could always try to get somebody more experienced to help you out or make it right with the
of
customer or
course.
something, right? But you got the
Yeah,
opportunity and you went for it. So, love
yeah,
it.
yeah. I learned a lot from it. Certainly, certainly.
So you got, you started, had your friend do some stuff, tried to network, mixed results, got
Hmm.
some more experience on drone base. Now you landed this kind of Walmart job. Was that in the middle of still kind of taking drone based gigs, or kind of where did that fall in the timeline for you?
Yeah, yeah, it really did. Yeah, that was very early on. I think it was the first summer that I was doing it, so I was like 4 or 5 months in. And the company that I essentially is signed up for that job for has since hired me since to do jobs around here in Lubbock, whether it's commercial real estate. Um, they really got into the roof inspection business,
Okay.
and I've worked with them each summer since doing roof inspections after bad hailstorms out here in
Mm,
the Panhandle.
yeah.
So
Okay.
it really did pay off. I became essentially these guys go to anything that was coming up in about 200-mile radius of Lubbock, Texas. They were reaching
Nice.
out to me to go do it. So for folks starting out, I mean, if marketing and getting in front of people isn't quite your specialty, focus in. My advice would be focus in on stuff like drone base or droners. That way you could kind of bid and kind of get the experience under your belt, and then once you do a good job for them, just essentially keep doing that good job, and eventually they'll start reaching out to you before putting it on those platforms,
Yeah.
and just build a professional rapport with these folks where they could trust that you're going to go out and do a good job and you're going to turn it around in the time frame they need, because they
Yeah.
have clients as well.
Yeah.
So and that's really how it's all started, to where now most of the stuff that I take, I'm getting contacted by certain places all over the country because I've worked with them before in one shape or another, and they're asking me if I could go do it, and if I can't, they're going to put it on something like droners or drone base. So
Yeah.
it's allowed me to kind of have first dibs on what's coming through in the region.
Yeah. That's awesome. So the Walmart job, so you got that, you kind of worked. So another company had that job and
Hmm.
they hired you to do it basically.
Correct. Yep,
Gotcha.
that's correct.
Gotcha.
Um,
Which seemed to have worked out well for you. It sounds like that it
yeah,
was
it really,
like you were kind of a subcontractor for some work for Walmart, because then they have a bunch of other stuff.
yeah, of course. And it's been, um, and while that's going on, then kind of getting my feet underneath me with that, and then here comes the pandemic, which really changed things in regards to uh, real estate and how realtors were able to market and
Hmm.
get folks seeing these properties that they had. And that's when I really saw the transition. So yeah, that's during the pandemic when realtors couldn't take folks out to see properties or open houses and stuff like that. That's when I really saw an uptick in what I call essentially organic business. That's stuff that I've gone out and I've marketed and I've pitched and has paid off. And that's and places like Keller Williams, Exit Realty, they, at least out here, they seem to be a little bit more progressive in how they market their listings. And I've had some success with both of those agencies here in town, um, and it's worked out great. And I like it because I get to I get to see a face that I'm working with, and I get to walk them through what I'm doing, and I get to ask very specific questions on what they want. And I like that. It's more local. It's more home. So
Hmm.
that those and there's still so much that I could do with that market that it makes me a little nervous and a little excited at the same time, because if it really gets going, it's going to be like, oh no, I'm going to have to start figuring out what I want to do full time. I still have a full time job now,
Oh, okay.
And I still do this on the side essentially.
Oh, gotcha. That
Um,
was gonna be my next question. I was gonna say, are you
oh,
doing
okay,
this? Are you doing this full? This isn't your full time gig. Then this is just kind of your
correct.
side cash. Okay, cool.
It is, yeah, it really is. And when I first began, everyone, I mean, I had a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit when I began. I was like, man, how cool it'd be if this was something that I did full time, and all of that great stuff. And that probably would have been the trajectory. But while I was at this job that I wasn't necessarily in love with and still growing my drone business, I mean, I gained a lot of confidence because I really had to get outside my comfort uh, level and go out and market and essentially talk about stuff that a lot of people had really no idea that really existed. So
Yeah.
I've always been a little bit of an aviation geek and things of that sort. And this one job came up on Indeed, and I took a look at it, and it was working with uh, emergency air medical company here in West Texas, and I've known about them since I was a kid. Used to see their helicopters fly in and out of my small hometown, and I was like, you know what? If I could start my own drone business and go out and create a little bit of a book of business, why not see if I can't do that? And um, just a little over 4 years now, I've been the business manager for a fleet of air medical helicopters and airplanes.
Well, that's cool.
And yeah, it is. It's and what's interesting is that in doing that, and that really is my my full time job. It is my priority. They're very open with what I do with the drone, and they understand that I've had this, and they're very supportive. But I've gotten to be able to what I've learned from developing business with the drone. I've been able to apply for what I do with the air medical position. And then what I've learned from air medical, I've been able to apply with the drone. And one of those is just
Yeah.
staying very, very consistent with your safety, which
Mm.
from day one I've always thought was important when flying a drone. I mean, you have something in the air that you're flying, and if it falls, it could hurt something or hurt someone. And I've always felt that if I was doing this professionally, that safety was going to be something that I needed to make sure was, always in the front and center, and of course quality. But it's really both of those jobs have really allowed me to kind of complement each other, or both of them,
Yeah.
with what I've learned.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
been fun.
it's kind of nice too that you're in the. I don't know. They're both aviation related
Yeah,
too. So at least it's
yeah.
like kind of in the same world.
Yeah, really, yeah, it does. It does. It is neat. And if someone would have said, "Hey, I have a crystal ball here," and this is, let's say, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, someone said you'd be working for a helicopter company and flying a drone for for a living, I would have said that crystal ball needs to go in the trash, because I would have never seen myself doing something like this. But it it's you get to when you're a little kid and you're seeing airplanes and helicopters, and you have this, I had model airplanes and all that stuff as a kid. And then to think about, I'm 39 years old, and I get to, watch helicopters take off. And every now and then, I get to go fly a drone around and take some pictures, and someone pays me for it. It's pretty neat to think about.
Yeah, it's something a lot of people would probably like to say that they do. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I just get to
Sure.
go. Sometimes I feel like you're not even working. You're like, oh, I'm flying out a drone. Remember the other
Yeah.
day I was, um, I do little jobs here and there. My main thing is just running drone launch and finding people like you to talk
Hmm.
to and finding instructors and all that stuff. But I have a friend in town. He's got a video production company, and he'll ask me to do some stuff every once in a while. So I was doing something for him, and it was just fun. He's like, I need you to fly like through this little walkway and then do some other stuff, get a hyperlapse. I'm like, man, this is cool that people get paid to do this stuff. I was just like,
Yeah.
thinking about all the podcast interviews we do and stuff. People
Hmm.
like you. It's like it's just it just feels fun, and then you're out there and someone's like, yeah, I'll pay you for it. It's a cool
Yeah.
thing.
It really is. Yep.
Um so you do this on the side. You had the kind of the Walmart thing, the drone based stuff. You're doing some more
Hmm.
with real estate. So I guess maybe fast forward to like right now, kind of what would you say is the mix of the type of work you do? Mapping. I mean, we talked a little bit about mapping stuff, some real estate
Hmm.
stuff. Kind of what are you into right now? What does your business look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Man, it's diverse. It is 100% diverse. I think now that things are starting to kind of green up and get a little nicer, just visually, I'm anticipating an uptick on commercial real estate and residential real estate aerial photos, as homes are increasing their value out here, and folks are still buying pretty regularly. So the market is pretty competitive. So I'm going to continue doing that. I do a lot of videography
Okay.
for a couple of folks. So I'm going out, taking a number of videos of, ranches and farms in the area. And then I come back to the house and I've taught myself a little bit of on how to edit some video and
Okay.
make it look nice. And they're throwing it on Facebook to advertise their listings.
Nice.
Um, right now I'm on a part of a large project, shooting a construction site at a very large dairy about an hour and a half north of Lubbock, and I'm out there every 2 weeks. And it's about a 16-month job. So
Oh, cool.
and it's essentially orthos with the orbit and then some panos of certain
Gotcha.
areas of interest that this company's wanting to find. And again, this is business that was drummed up from just someone Googling aerial photography, Lubbock, Texas, and they're
Nice.
reaching out to me via email saying they found my website and if I'd be interested. And
Oh,
you know, for I think, and of course, this time of year is always leading up to hell season, and that's kind of like I I equate it to like it's department stores like between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
it's like Black Friday for you.
It is. I mean, keep what you're doing going, but always, and I never hate to say it aloud too much, but I kind of have like the auto repair and roofer philosophy. If it hails, that means payday.
Yeah.
Because if there's a large hailstorm that comes through the area, I will
A lot
move
of
stuff
insurance
around to
claims.
just yes,
Mhm.
to just knock that stuff out because you could do a lot of work in not too much time, and it's lucrative, I guess
Yeah.
is a good way of saying it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think it's funny, like the type of work you can get somewhat depends on where you are, right? Like, because you got a lot of, it
Yeah.
sounds like some hail damage.
Hmm.
That's it. I know in Florida, hurricane will come through and that just
Of
messes
course.
everything up. And so there's tons of stuff like that. In either Louisiana, I know a lot of them do hurricane. So if you can get with roofers or insurance companies in places where
Yep.
there's hurricanes, hail, maybe tornadoes,
Yep.
stuff like that, significant weather events, there's always a
It
need for that
does.
because you can just process stuff so much faster than them having to
Oh
get up
man.
there and look at everything. So it's a huge
Yeah.
benefit for them because they can, I mean, think about it too. You're helping, I mean, indirectly helping out the people who have their claim trying to be submitted, right? Because if
Hmm.
there's a big hailstorm and everybody's submitting claims, it's going to be a huge backlog. It's going to take forever for them to
Of
get their
course.
money and stuff fixed. But if those insurance company can get through a lot faster, people can get their stuff fixed, get their money or whatever, and be done with it.
Yeah, and that's I think a lot of times of course I'm knocking out the door saying that I'm here and I'm here to fly my drone around to take pictures of your house, and I'll ask them for is areas of concern. Oh yeah, this side of the house got hit really hard, and then I explain them just that and they're sometimes they're a little hesitant that there's not going to be an actual adjuster with a ladder going to come up and with this ruler and mark stuff off, and I let them know I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just doing it a lot quicker, and these photos that I'm taking are going to that adjuster, and it's just to make the process a lot more easier for you. So they're usually very open to letting me come out and doing the pictures and stuff like that. So it's that time of year is always a lot of fun because you're interacting with the folks that you're working with, and
Yeah.
everyone's out, whether they're roofing salespeople and adjusters and guys flying drones. It's just everyone kind of. It's an unfortunate way of how it works, but once there's something that there's essentially catastrophic destruction, a lot of people kind of come in and tackle it all together to get it
Yeah.
back to where it needs to be.
Yeah. That's cool that like, you can use something like that to speed up the process, though.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, everybody loves to know about pricing. What do I price? It seems like they don't care about actually how to fly a drone or do the work. They just want
Hmm.
to know what to, to price. They're like, I don't know how to do, or they'll get a job and they'll say, I just don't know how to price. It's kind of like where you were on the front thing. They're asking me to do this
Of
stuff.
course.
What's the What's the pricing? So since you do a lot, I mean, again, I know
Uh-huh.
prices vary in different places, and you don't have to be like,
Of
oh,
course.
exactly, here's what you should charge. But um, for instance, the job where you're doing some orthomosaic.
Uh-huh.
Are you doing for them? Are you doing like an orthomosaic where you're processing an orthomosaic image and map and stuff together and sending that to them, or is it just photos and video?
Just the photos. Just the photos.
Gotcha,
Yep, just the
gotcha.
photos.
So you don't actually have to go in there and
And
like process photogrammetry or use Pix4D or
essentially
anything
stitch
like
them all
that.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately not.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just photos, and really the I would say for anyone starting out, kind of it takes a little bit of time to figure out the sweet spot, I think is a good way of saying it, because you don't want to price yourself out, and then you don't want to essentially underbid, and then it's not worth your time or trouble to do. So you kind of have to figure out where you're at. And what I did for real estate is, a good childhood friend of mine is a realtor here in Lubbock, and I kind of just asked him, hey, what would you think would be a reasonable price for someone to come out and take these photos? And he gave me a price that I thought was pretty fair. And then of course, if it's a larger property where you might be doing a barn over here or a nice pond, landscaped pond over here, it could be a little bit more expensive. But I think what we kind of hit on was right around $100 an hour is what we were
Okay.
looking at. And that and that incorporates a little bit of the editing that you're doing after the flight is done. Videography is a little bit more expensive because it's just harder to put together.
Yeah. Oh,
You're
sure.
trying to build a story with the videos that you took, so that jumps it up about another $50 because it's just kind of a little bit more challenging on
Sure.
the editing end of things. And that's kind of where I've ranged it. And you just kind of, once you know how efficient you could be, then you could kind of say, all right, after looking at the specifics of what I'm being asked, I think that I could get that done in X amount of time. And then I've just kind of used the $100 an hour. And I haven't won every job, of course, but
Hmm.
majority I do. And folks, I definitely get more jobs than I lose. I'd say I probably have about a 75% success rate. And
Awesome.
when some folks come out to me and say, hey, would you be willing to do this? Can you quote me? And about 3 out of every 4 I seem to be
Yeah, that's awesome.
successful at. But I mean, having a little bit of customer service and knowing what you're talking about when they're asking questions, and
Hmm.
providing information and experience and references, all that goes a long way. And that just takes time.
Sure.
Find your sweet spot. I'm sure what I do out here in West Texas is a lot different what might be going on in Austin, Texas.
Sure.
But just kind of play with it a little bit and see what you could get away with. And if it's not working at that rate, then bring it down a little and just kind of find the sweet spot and kind of go with that.
Sure. And I think some people are like, oh, well, must be nice for you because you have customers coming in and asking you, right? And so if you're at the
Yeah.
very, very beginning and you're going out, I mean, you explained at the beginning, you offer to do some stuff for free just to build
Oh
credibility and
yeah.
have something to show and all that stuff. So if you don't have people actively coming to you, is that something you'd recommend, is reaching out and offering to do a few things for free?
100%. And I think more than anything, it's just people are a little, again, going back to my, experience, 4 or so years ago, aerial photography, at least out here in West Texas, there wasn't, I feel almost confident saying there was just about no one really doing it. So I had to kind of prove that it was a service that had value. Nowadays, I think that they're a little bit more common, and aerial photography, I mean, you see it a lot more in commercials or even football games. I saw a football game this last weekend, the USSFL or something, a little drone like flying around when they're, playing football, which I thought was crazy. But
Oh, really?
yeah, but I would certainly just say, what, find what market you think you have the best chance of essentially getting into. If you have a network, if you have a friend or so that is in real estate or in construction, just say, hey, do you know anyone that would allow me to just fly a drone around and take some pictures? And they'd be welcome to have them and do whatever they like with them. And then, just lean on that person after you do a great job to spread the word. And just kind of, nothing happens immediately, nothing happens overnight, but just as you kind of keep on it and keep on it. And, with that, you're showing that your service does have value, but you're simultaneously gaining experience, and building a network. That's what, I think it's going to take. And that's what it took me to do. And I think that if you just kind of, you make your product out there and you show what you could do with your service, folks are bound to see it. And if you, do a great job of, being just, again, that customer service and getting stuff, doing exactly what they ask and getting it to them when they need, I think they'll eventually start catching on and you'll be successful.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. I think that's super good advice, and it's in line with every other successful drone operator and
Yeah.
business person I've talked to. I mean, it kind of all meshes together where you're like, hey, I'm kind of seeing a trend here. Everybody's saying the same thing to do
Hmm.
this stuff. So if you're listening to this podcast, um,
Yeah.
Joe's giving good advice. I'm just saying.
Right.
I was gonna ask, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to, just real quick, and something that I see out here is if one realtor is doing aerial photography, then there's going to be like 5 or 6 more that want to put it on theirs, because no one wants to, feel like
Yeah,
they're behind the curve on being
right.
creative with their listing. So it's just that's what I would suggest. Just do some pro bono stuff and then just wait, because no one wants to,
Get
everyone
left
wants to,
behind.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's great. And if you did work with one, you could reach out and say, "Hey, I'm doing this for this person. Like, here's what it looks
Hmm.
like." I would hate for you to lose listings to this other guy because you're not
Yeah.
doing it.
Your
I mean,
due diligence. Yeah.
maybe you
Just
don't have to
keep
go
it
that
up.
hard on them, but no, that's awesome. So, as far as I know you do this on the sides. I'm not sure how much time you have to
Uh-huh.
do these jobs, but it sounds like hail season is a lot busier. Do you see like, oh, I've got a slow season, I got a busy season? Well, it sounds like you have that other thing. It's like a long
Hmm.
term contract that maybe provides some consistency. So I'd
It
love
does.
for you to walk us through a little bit, like, hey, when it's slow time, I'm doing about this many jobs in a week or in a month, and then during like super busy times,
Yeah.
I'm doing about this much.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and certainly after doing this, the last few years, you certainly see kind of when things slow down, and really between Thanksgiving and Christmas, just as anything, for the most part, it just kind of slows down. You see, I've seen right at the beginning of the year, it kind of picks up for a little bit, then maybe your February is a little bit slow, but as soon as the warm weather comes in, for whatever reason, it just seems to get a lot more busy. And I don't know if that's because it's, there's more construction that might go on in warmer months than maybe colder months, or folks are, maybe there's some trends and some analytics as to when things like, large office buildings go on sale and when those sell better, what time of year, that all could go into it. But kind of, I would say, November to about, February are probably the 3 slower months. But then March all the way through October, it really ramps up. Of course, hell season is typically the busiest if there is a storm, but all through the summer and into the early spring, it all gets stays very consistent. I would say, I mean, today I just got back from a job, and then I got 3 more stops before the end of the day, um, and then there could be times where I might just be flying the drone once a week for about 2 or 3 weeks straight, and then
Hmm.
like this week I'll probably be up in the air 5 or 6 times,
Gotcha.
6 or so different jobs that are kind of lined
Yeah.
out. So
Nice.
yeah, and then
Okay.
of course weather has a lot to do
Yeah.
with how your productivity. But in regards to business, probably again near the holidays and just after the holidays, but warmer weathers,
Sure.
things get cranked up again, and
Yeah.
you stay
No, I
pretty
think that's
busy with
good.
it.
Just want to give people a gauge because sometimes I know people can get discouraged if it's like, oh, it's so, nobody wants it. But it's like, hey, maybe you're trying to do your drone and you're in the north and it's the winter and nobody wants to go
Yeah,
outside or something,
yeah,
And,
exactly.
you know, but sometimes you just got to get creative maybe on how you can help people out with it too. So,
Yeah, of
um,
course.
cool, Joel. Well, I don't want to suck up much more of your time. You've been gracious enough to talk to me for a while here and share your kind of journey and insights with everybody. Before we go, though, I guess 2 things.
Hmm.
Number one, I'm going to ask you for some advice that you would give kind of newbies starting out. And then number two, where people could just like find out more about you, maybe your website. I don't know if you're on like any social media like Instagram, Facebook, or anything like that. But yeah,
Sure.
so number one, what would be if someone came to you, they're thinking about kicking up a drone business and they
Yep.
had like 1 minute, they're like, Joe, what's your number one piece of
One
advice?
minute.
What would it be?
I would say uh, commit to safety, commit to being professional, and commit to quality. If you could stay pretty consistent with those, you will have a successful drone business. And how successful you want it to be is successful as it can be. Right now, where I'm at is where kind of I'm comfortable. I don't want to do too much more. I like where I'm at, but I'm sure I could if I really want to go get it. But if you really just stay consistent to flying safe and having customer service and being professional and having those good turnaround times for those clients, you will be successful and be competitive. When I constantly search Lubbock, West Texas aerial photography. If I see someone pop up new, then I might work a little harder. I might, my bids might come down just a little bit lower because I want that job. But that's just stuff that's worked for me, and that's just kind of my personality. But yeah, always be safe. And when you fly safe, you get more confident with your drone. And when you go out, do what you say you're going to do. If they need it done by the end of the week, go get it done when it's safe to fly, and get it to them when they need it. And most of what I've, in my experience, they'll come back to you, and they'll continue coming back to you. So I would say that. And don't be intimidated by large projects, because you'll just gain that much more experience and be that much more confident with what you're doing.
Yeah, no, great advice. I was going to just comment on something too you made me think of when you said, they'll keep coming back to you, and, people will do that once you prove that you're reliable and consistent. And it made me think too earlier when we were talking about people have resistance when you first meet them. You got to put yourself in the shoes of the customer, right? Because there's always risk when they're going to use somebody new, right? So first off, paying for it is a risk, but even using you for free, as I've gone out there and we try to experiment with different tactics to see for drone businesses to be like, hey, does this work or this work? We'll try cold calling and say certain things. But it's funny because when people are resistant to even free stuff, sometimes if they feel like, oh, this person, I don't like, they want something out of this, or they don't understand it, or they're just like, you're going to be flying a drone around someone, you're going to embarrass me in front of these people who are my clients or something like that, right?
Of course.
There's like all these risks in using you, and they're weighing, does that risk outweigh the reward? And then there's a financial component to what if I pay this person and I don't like it or it doesn't help? So the more you can like peel away those risk factors, right? Hey, let me do the first one for free so you can see how it is. Hey, I'm super committed to being safe. Hey, I've got liability insurance. Hey, I've did this. Hey, I've done this with someone else. The more you can peel off those, hey, this is risky for me, things going on in their mind, the more opportunities you get. And then if somebody contacts Joe today, right, like they pull your website up, they see, oh, he's done all this other work. He's got work for Walmart. He's done this. Oh, surely if he's done work for all these people, like he's reliable and I can use, so once you have more credibility, it just removes that risk. So when you're thinking about when you approach someone, you can be like, hey, listen, they're probably gonna have a lot of resistance to me because they don't know me and there's a lot of risk in their mind. So how do I take away the risk for them to work with me? And I think everything you said is like spot on as far as how to do that. So awesome. All right. Lastly, Joe, where can we find out more about you, get in touch with you? I can send everybody to your email inbox for free coaching, right? No, just kidding. But
excellent. No, please do. No, I love helping out. I think that's how this industry is going to grow is, by getting the word out and, training great pilots like you guys are doing. My website is eyesabovetx.com. And you can find us on Facebook. I also have a LinkedIn page. So yeah, please, if LinkedIn would be a great spot. If you guys just want to, shoot over a question or something like that, I'd be glad to help. I'm open to just about any question out there. It's something that I've really enjoyed doing. And I think that there's plenty of room for other drone pilots. I think it's going to continue growing this industry. And, it is exciting to think what this is going to look like in about 10 years. And I think about my kiddos that are watching me fly this drone around and, what's it going to look like when they, become, 20, 25 years old with what you could do with the drone. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who really knows?
It's going to be wild. So, Joe, thanks. We'll put all those links that you mentioned. I'll put your website and then your LinkedIn in the description to this podcast. So the show notes. So if you want to scroll through there and look, or you can just type it in yourself.
Excellent.
And find Joe on there. So thanks again, Joe. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom with us.
Sure. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yep. See ya. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with the Joe Morgan. Again, check out the description either in the YouTube video of this or in the email you got. There'll be a link for a game, Two Truths and a Lie. You just answer one question. You can win some free swag, some free courses, potentially a call with me and Joe. I'm not sure if I told him about this yet, but hopefully he's cool with hopping on a call with someone for like 15 minutes just to chat and say, hey, we just like to try to connect podcast listeners to the guests and me. For the people who are kind of in there playing the game, and when I say playing the game, I mean answering the question the first week, that will give you access to some potential prizes. So thanks everyone again for listening in. One last reminder about our community, Drone Launch Connect. I would love to see you in there. I'm really enjoying it. We have 210 members, I think, to start off with. So it's a good initial group of folks in there. And looking forward to see how that grows over the next year. All right. That's all I got. Signing off from the mountains of North Carolina. I'm about to go into this coffee shop, Poppy's Coffee Shop. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been there, but it's a nice, cozy little spot up here. It is 59 degrees outside, which is glorious because in Lakeland it's probably like, I don't know, 200 degrees. All right, enough about that. I'll see you all for episode 4 next week. Take care.